Well, Miami put the bull to rest, at least for a game. Mark Fletcher Jr. pours it on for Miami in a close game. It was 14-6, but then it was Canes rest away. They outscored the Bulls 35-6. And Miami, behind Carson Beck, wins it 49-12, off to a 3-0 start, handing USF its first loss of the season. Back here in studio, Cardale Jones, Adam Breneman. Look, Carson Beck was awesome to start this game. 7 of 7 to 6 different receivers. You saw where the game was close early on, but then it was just too much Miami rest of way there after that touchdown by Mark Fletcher Jr.
Yeah, Carson Beck picked up where he left off from last week, but then ultimately had a few turnovers down the stretch, which is so uncharacteristic of him the first 3 weeks we've been seeing of the season from him. But what helps a great quarterback rebound and really continue to fight through that adversity is having a great running game, and Miami has that with Mark Fletcher Jr. going for his third plus 100-yard rushing, plus a few scores, and that always helps. Then you flip the script on the other side of the ball. Miami defense was lights out, something that we wasn't able to say last year with that high-power offense led by Cam Ward, holding South Florida to under 2 yards per rush. Yeah. You're not going to win many football games rushing under for 2 yards to rush, especially in playing an ACC opponent and really trying to make a staple for yourself and try to get, things running in the right direction. And UCF been hot this season so far. They just ran into a really good Miami team.
Carson Beck's really hitting his stride right now at Miami. That transfer from Georgia to Miami for Carson Beck was really the reset he needed.
Yeah.
To have a fresh slate. Sometimes when you're a veteran quarterback who's been through some stuff in your career, hasn't always been pretty, you need a fresh start. You need a new program, a new city that believes in you. And Miami has its quarterback that they believe can win them a championship in Carson Beck. On offense today, Miami was lights out. Average over 8 yards a play. They were 5 for 5 in the red zone, so Carson Beck got the job done when they needed it the most. Miami offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson had a great plan in this one and just really dominated USF from the very beginning.
Yeah, they had 576 total yards of offense. Carson Beck, 340 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, a couple of picks here. Look, before we move on to Miami and what they can do in the ACC, I want to give some credit here to Alex Golesh and his staff because they started 2-0, back-to-back wins against a ranked opponent. They're ranked in the AP poll for the first time since 2018. They have to go to Coral Gables, play Miami, who's one of the top teams in the ACC. And, Adam, you spent time with Coach Golesh in the offseason. What does this start mean for his program?
Yeah, Alex Golesh has completely changed the trajectory of USF football. He put this place on the map. He took over a program that was 1-11 the year before he got there, beat Boise State, a top 25 team, beat Florida, had this loss against Miami, but it does not change the job he's done in Tampa. There is a new vibe around this South Florida program. There is commitment from the top down in the administration at USF. And this is a program in South Florida that almost every Power 4 conference is going to want in their conference because you got a big media market, you got a place you can recruit to, you have a new stadium coming to South Florida, and a head coach in Alex Golesh who's one of the best in the country.
Absolutely, a heck of a start for them, but they do come up short on the road against Miami, and Miami is the favorite to win the ACC. What do you think about that, them being the favorites over Florida State in the conference?
I think so far they have the most impressive schedule and the wins between both schools, with Miami beating Notre Dame in the opening weeks. So yeah, they're my favorite to come out of the ACC right now. But man, when the last time the state of Florida college football been this good and have so many quality teams, including South Florida, which is still my favorite of the group of 5 teams to make the college football playoffs.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Miami's going to be seeing Florida State here in 3 weeks' time, and that's when you're really going to understand what's at stake.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Miami, without a doubt, to me, is the favorite to win the ACC. You combine the defense, as you said, Cardale, with Carson Beck, a veteran quarterback who's played a ton of football. You have the running game with Fletcher, who had a couple touchdowns on the ground, ran for 100 yards. Miami averaged 5 to 6 yards a carry in this game against USF, who had been good against the run in their previous 2 games. This is a well-rounded Miami program. Mario Cristobal has built this roster the right way. He has built it to win in the trenches, and now you add on top of it a dynamic quarterback who can push the ball down the field. It's a real recipe to win.
Well, this is the year, right? Mario Cristobal has to prove that he can win the ACC, right? This is the year for him, that prove-it year being down there with Miami. You got the high-paid quarterback in the transfer portal. You have the defense to do it. This is now time for him to prove that this is why he came back to Miami.
Yeah, that's the first steps of definitely winning the ACC and punching your ticket for the college football playoff. You look at the way they played last year with Cam Ward on offense. All the games they lost was not because of the offensive success Cam Ward had and some of the guys he had around them. It was the lack of defense and the lack of playmakers they had on defense. That's not the case this year. And you're still able to pick up where you left off with on the offensive side of the ball with Carson, Beck, and Mark Fletcher Jr. really coming into his role and his and coming into his way of making a scene on the college football playoffs type of stage. So this is a big year for these guys, and I'm happy that Miami was able to stick with him and believe in his process and now hopefully reap some of these benefits.
Another Florida program next week for Miami. They're going to play Florida at home in Miami Gardens, and then a bye week, and then at Florida State. So 3 straight teams from the state of Florida. They're trying to take care of business. They get a 37-point win here against USF, their largest win against a ranked opponent since 2001. You remember they won the BCS national title in that season. Miami 3-0 for 3 consecutive seasons for the first time since 2015 through 2017. They take care of business against USF.